gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Aerosol! Good morning, friends, and welcome to the Shiro Coffee Chat, where coffee meets conversation. I'm your host, Melissa Farmer Hill, an Army combat veteran and the founder of the Shiro Coffee Club, where our mission is to keep the world caffeinated and women veterans celebrated. I want to thank you for joining us today, and as always, we'll take a spin around the Shiro resource table. We've got your chat, your tip, and your guest of the week all coming up right after this. But I want to tell you something before I leave. I'm here by myself. I don't have a ones and twos guy, so I am it. All right. Right after this, we'll be coming up with the show. I want to thank you guys for joining me today. And I don't know if you can tell, I've got this Coast Guard shirt on. You know, someone says, just because I was in the Army doesn't mean I can't represent on my platform. So this month, I'm representing the Coast Guard because they had a birthday this month. I want to say it was August 6th. So all you Coasties out there, shout out to you and happy birthday to the United States Coast Guard. Now let's get right into it. At Shiro Coffee Chat, we know and we realize that life is a journey, and that journey definitely is not always easy, right? And that's why we really have to keep our heads on a swivel when it comes to taking care of our veterans and their families. With over 16 million veterans out there, not one of us has all the answers, but together we definitely can find solutions. And so that's what the Shiro resource table is all about. It's about sharing info, resources, programs, for the veteran community, because I truly believe that when one of us wins, we all win. So how do you feel about that? Do you believe that when one of us wins, we all win? I believe we do. And today I want to talk about something that I honestly didn't know. And if I'm wrong, I want my community to swoop in and set me straight, because with this topic, I think I have more questions than answers. But I want to clear up a big myth about the post 9/11 GI Bill. Now, a lot of spouses think, and I even thought, well, if your spouse got out of the military, you can just apply for their benefits, the transfer of benefits. I thought that's how it worked, but to my knowledge right now, it doesn't. Because did you know that the transfer of education benefits has to be requested and approved while the service member is still on active duty or in the selected reserve? And that's a DOD rule. It's not the VA's rule, it's a DOD rule. Now, if that transfer was approved before separation, then you're good to go. Your spouse can use the benefits even after they retire. But if the transfer never happened while they were in, to my understanding, it's too late once they're out. No backdating and no exceptions. So here's the best way I've heard it explained. You think of the GI Bill transfer as an opening door. So you have to open that door while you're still in uniform, right? Once you open it, you can always adjust things later, like adding kids you have after you get out, as long as they're in DEERS and meet all the requirements. So that's easy to do while that door is open. But if you never open that door, then once you separate, that door is shut. So the big takeaway is, if you're still serving or you know someone who is, then tell them to log into their Meal Connect and set up that transfer before they get out. That's the only way a spouse or a child can use those benefits down the line. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up that slide. I'm on the ones and twos today. So let's see here. Let me remove myself. You may not be able to hear me. So that's the information to transfer your GI Bills. You can apply using the VA, using that VA form. I can't really see it, but it's the VA form 22-1990E, and then you're good to go. And then if you have any questions, there's that the VA's Education Call Center. That's the 888-442-4551 number. So there is the information. I'm going to pull myself out so you can. All right. All right. I am back. I am back. We have some snafus going on, but I'm glad you guys are working with me. Let me pull this out. This is my first time on the ones and twos. All right. We are back. And that is, I'm hearing reverb. I'm hearing reverb. You got to turn that down. All right. So that is the information, and that is your tip of the week. You got to get it on. Like I always tell you guys, I wish there was information, especially when it comes to the dental work and the insurance and all that. That stuff I wish I had known before I left the military. And so this is something, even if you're not in, but if you know people that are in, that are about to transition, make sure they do that so they can have that benefit to be able to transfer it. Now, we're going to move right along into the chat of the week. And of course, I have a question for you. Of course. And that question is, has social media made you numb to real life tragedies? Has social media made you numb to real life tragedies? That's the question I want to put on the table today, because social media has really changed the way we see the world, and honestly, it's not always for the good, right? Right? Every single day we scroll past stories of murder, violence, and tragedy, and at first it shocks us, but the more we see it, the more you get acclimated to it, the less you have empathy and sympathy for things, because after a while, it just feels like another post in your feed, right? And that numbness just starts to spill over into real life. Think about it. Some years ago, depending on how old you are, but I can go back 20 years. I can go back more than 20 years, but I'm only going to go back 20 years. If something tragic happened in the community, people stopped everything. They showed up, they lit candles, they prayed, they checked on those families and took care of each other. Now, too often, we might do a little something, but basically we just keep moving. We just keep moving. And here's the hard truth. I think when something happens right in front of us, it's happening right in front of you. And instead of calling for help or often, or support, oftentimes people just, what do they do? Pull out their phones, because we are so used to, consuming other people's pain as content. I'm going to take a breath on that one, because it's a lot of people in the world that are hurting right now. A lot of people that are going through things, and we're using their pain as content, and we should not do that, right? And most times, we just stay silent or talk about it amongst ourselves. So here is my challenge to you for this week. Here's what I want you to do. When you see a tragedy, whether it's happening online or right in front of you, pause. Pause. Don't just scroll by. pause. And if you see it happening in real life, don't just stand back. Take a moment, say a prayer, stop to support if you can, call the police, get help, get help if that's what's needed. I want you to choose to act instead of watching, because empathy isn't just, about feeling sad for someone. It really is about showing up. It's about remembering that what we're seeing isn't just a story or a video clip. It's someone's lives. And if you live in the Chicagoland area and you watch the news, you'll be doing plenty of stopping and pausing this week and saying a prayer or helping someone. We can't always be bystanders. We have to be people who are willing to do something when it matters the most. So I just want to challenge you to do that. And to answer that question, has social media made you numb to all of these things that we're seeing, all of these real life tragedies that we're seeing? It's just something to think about. It was something that was on my mind this week. And we're going to move right along to the tip of the week. Now I'm excited. Now, if you watched last week, we got this finance series going on. Each week, we're going to kind of dig into real life money moves that help you kind of stress less. So now, last week, I asked you to track your spending without judgment or anything like that. So did you? Did you do that? Were you able to do that? Now, this week, this is what I want you to do. I want you to identify the information of what you tracked. I want you to determine it as a need or a want. I think when it comes to spending and things like that, and the way the world is moving, it's a blur. We don't know what we need, and we don't know what we want, because we need what we want, right? And that's not true, because I'll give you an example. Transportation, right? Some of us, most of us in America have transportation. We need transportation. But do I have to travel in a $75,000 Lexus, or would a $30,000 car suffice? That all depends on your budget, because some people are driving poor. Because I think, especially over the last couple of years, how the price in cars have increased, and you have a car note of $500 or more. And we're not even talking about the interest rate on that. The interest rate where we know it's robbing you of your savings and investments for the future. So I want you to take that as an example between the wants and the needs. You might need a car, but it definitely, if you only make $100,000 or less, or whatever the case is, you definitely don't need a $75,000 car, right? So that list that you wrote out last week, I want you to look at all of your spending, because we wrote it without judgment, and right next to it for this week, whether that was a want or a need. All right. And that's all I want you to do. And that's the challenge. That is this tip of the week. And now we are going to roll into my favorite part of the show. Now, you guys know what that is, right? All right. It is our special guest. Yes. So, Makissa Lewis rhymes with Melissa. Makissa. Makissa Lewis is the founder and CEO of My Seester Inc. My Seester. Seester, which is a nonprofit dedicated to serving female veterans in South Florida. I'm sure she goes beyond that, but that's what I have right here. She is a combat disabled veteran herself. Makissa has turned her experiences into advocacy and action, creating a space where women who serve can find support, recognition, and community. And beyond her work with my sister, she is also an author currently working on an anthology that documents her personal journey during and after her military career. Her voice and vision shine a light of the resilience of women veterans and the importance of telling their stories. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring to you my special guest, Makissa Lewis. Hey, wait,
Good morning, everyone. Hi. Thank
there's
you for
some
having me. Wow. Made me feel like, ooh, that's a lot.
there's
Thanks. I
there's
appreciate it.
something I wanted to do. Andre usually does it, but if I find it, wait, there
Wow. Didn't expect that one. Thank you.
there you
Thank
go.
you.
It
Give
is
yourself props too.
it is such a blessing to have you on. And of course, there's never enough time with my guests to answer all the questions that I have, but I do want to get to the important ones. I
Go
want,
for it.
I want to talk about my sister, Inc. Now,
Okay.
what inspired you to start it? And how has the mission evolved since you first started in that with that organization?
Okay. So, what inspired me to start it? I was a female vet, still a female vet, graduating from with my second degree. Actually, it was even before that. It was my first degree, and I didn't know a lot of information or resources. But I found that social media, Facebook, was the place where you go to find information. And female vets were talking and sharing what they did and how they were going about doing their journey. And I figured, why not do something like that, but not only on social media, but in person. So my journey with my sister started with that inkling. It actually started with a veteran upward bound that helped veterans who never saw college or thought of college to get into college. And and then it transitioned into us needing more of a voice, knowing where the resources were, where to go if you have a health issue. I found that a lot of female veterans didn't know that there were vet centers that they could go to, and it's not necessarily tied into the VA, so they can talk about their trauma there. So that's kind of how my sister started, because I see them, because I am them. And from there, it just kind of continued on other issues that I realized that we all facing. There's It's not only health, but housing is a big issue in South Florida, and a lot of female veterans don't know how they can get a home or how they can get affordable rent. So all of that information I poured into my sister, and not only on social media but in person.
Yeah, I know that, like you said, you've called for transitional housing for women veterans. So, why do you think that is so important right now?
Well, one of the reasons I think, because I see how it benefits the male veterans. Um, our own separate space where we can grow and where we can have someone weekly come and do our little check in to see how we're doing. Because females, we tend to internalize, we tend to say we're good, we tend to take care of our families and not ourselves. But with our own little transitional housing, our own little space, we can grow in that community and flourish. And then we can actually empower the next generation, because that's what females do.
Hmm.
So that's why the transitional housing for female veterans, I really want it to happen, because we need that space to grow. We need that opportunity, that little buffer before we can go right into the civilian world.
And like, so I know transitional, that is excellent. Transitional housing is so big, but there are some other gaps where women and
Yes.
veterans
Mhm.
need support. So where would you say that those gaps are where the support is needed?
One of the biggest gaps is the mental health. And most importantly, I would say MST. That's one of the things that my sister is going to be doing big this year. Military sexual trauma. Actually educating the public and a female vet that, hey, that was trauma, what you're suffering, and that self medication thing not working. So I find one of the biggest gaps is the military sexual trauma because a lot of females leave the military and they have a dishonorable discharge because of the military sexual trauma that they have, and they don't know how to get that rating changed, or they don't know who they can talk to or where to go. And everyone feels that because you have the military that everything was hunky dory in there, but the military was not good for everybody or all the time. So military sexual trauma is one of those things that we are going to focus on. Also, empowering ourselves to be advocates for our communities, because a lot of our communities that our females are part of are suffering, and we could do something with our leadership skills and the skills that we learn. For example, a person who was a cook in the military they know how to stretch food. They know how to make food for a whole bunch of people. That's skills that a community can use so they can feed, especially when food prices are going up and they need to stretch food further. That training can be helpful. But a female vet won't know to do that if they're not empowered to do so. So
Mm.
that's one of the things that I'm trying to do. Empower the female, you feel good about yourself so you can empower your community and do something good there.
Yeah, and then going back to the MST and what you talked about, I know there's a it's a like a nurses act. It's called like the Sane VA. It's some type of nurses act that's supposed to streamline MST, those who have experienced MST, and it's supposed to be better. But I always say, sometimes things look good on paper, it briefs well, but if it's not happening in the community, then none of that even matters. So what advice would you give, someone who has suffered from MST, going through, how is it, two questions, how is it looking down there in South Florida, and then what advice would you give to a woman who is really afraid to go and advocate for the benefits that she's entitled to?
Well, first off, I'll say I'm a person with MST. I total disclosure with that. What it looks like for me might not be what it looks like for you.
Hmm.
But with the South Florida thing, what I find what it looks like is a lot of self medication, using sex as a weapon. So you get into these bad relationships with these bad partners who abuse you further because you don't feel you're worth it. So you see a lot of that. It's no surprise that South Florida has a high STD rate. That comes from not being treated and not talking about it, not talking about your trauma. Um, what I would advise is start little. Talk to your battle because we all have a battle buddy still. You at least have one. Talk to them. And hopefully, with your battle, you can have strength. And then together, you can maybe talk to your minister or your healthcare provider. And from there, those little conversations, when you feel comfortable, then you could go try to advocate to get your benefits. Because coming out of the military for MST, you can't go back and try to get your rating changed. So if you had other than honorable, you can go back and try to get general, and from general you can get honorable because it was not your fault. Um, you didn't do anything. You were just serving, and you didn't deserve that. So that's how I would go about it. Total disclosure. I always try to have those one-on-one conversations. I tend to find those work better because it's a big topic, more than people know. And trust that whoever you're talking to will take you to the healthcare provider or that minister so they can give you help in a sense of maybe you need a medication because sometimes it's that deep, or maybe you need to get yourself checked to see if you have any STDs because of this happening. So I find talk to your battles because I find your battles won't steer you wrong because that's what the battles was for in the military, and you should continue that tradition once you're out. And if you can't find anybody, talk to me.
I absolutely love that. And I think you are 100% correct. It wasn't until because I know me and you had a conversation even a year ago on identity. It wasn't until I volunteered for my VSO team and I learned about, these other stories because I always felt alone initially. You know what I'm saying? But then I shared when I started talking to my battles and helping them through their journey. It helped me to heal. So I get it. If you can get that one-on-one conversation initially to get somebody to stand in the gap for you, to stand with you, to hold your hand, to go through the experience with you, I think it's excellent. So great advice all the way around. Thank you. But I want to talk about something else.
Okay.
I want to talk about the Retina Project. Tell us
Yes.
about the Retina Project and where that all started and how that came to be.
Okay. Retina's project is one of those projects that my sister has that is near and dear to me because it was started on, I guess, the evening or the afternoon. Because in Jamaican cultures, when a person dies, they have this big shindig of celebration and everything. And when my grandmother passed away, during that wake of things, I was I was thinking about her. She lived in New Jersey, and one of the things she used to do because she couldn't, she used to be a cook, a seamstress, and everything, but she couldn't move around much anymore. She used to make these hats, these crochet hats, and they would give it out to distribute it. And at her funeral, a lot of people were grateful and wearing her hats. And that kind of is where Retina Project started. It was thinking of how my grandmother, though she was not able to move or anything, she was using her energy, her limited energy, to make these hats for these homeless people who would end up wearing them and were warm during the winter. So, with that being said, I took that idea and I wanted her to live on in a sense of how she used her energies, whatever talent she had, and she was helping someone else. So the Retina Project is the same concept. For me, I love writing. So I write a lot. Henceforth, I'm doing my anthology. And I figured maybe my fellow females, because I open it up to females, female vets, female caretakers, or whatever, because it was that big of a deal for me. And with the writing, you write things down and you share it. And from sharing it, another person will share their stories. And from those stories, we talked about MST during those conversations. We talked about alcoholism during these conversations. And to me, that's the new art because it's freeing. It's not trapped into you anymore. But I also realized it's not only that, you could also do art. And so that's kind of the concept. Whatever your art is, through that, you have the conversation and you will heal somebody, and that person could take it on to do something else, and so on and so forth. So that is the whole concept. And whenever I talk about it, I get emotional because this is what my grandmother did, and that's to me one of her legacies is those hats. Well, her blankets too.
Yeah.
She has these heavy wood blankets, even in the Sunshine State, that I have to this day because that's what she did. She was always creating, no matter. She would just sit down and just create, and from there you had those conversations, and that's that's the project. in a nutshell.
Wow, that is so beautiful. And so your grandmother's name was Retina? Is it
Regina Grant.
beautiful? That is beautiful. Can you believe we are out of time? But I want you to give some last words. How can we support My Sister Inc.?
Well, it's twofold. I'm not even gonna knock it. Money always helps, but what really would help if you go out and come to the events that we have, or because I do put them on the calendar on the website, www.myseester.com. So, but if you go to these events, you support them, or if you actually advocate for your fellow female wherever you are, advocate for them. Our rights are being trampled on. So even if you're not in South Florida, if you know a female is not doing well, be a battle for them. Um, to me, that helps my sister because you're helping my sister. Um, so that's what I would recommend. Go to our events and just be an advocate for your fellow female sister because they need you, especially now. Especially now.
So I know you have some upcoming events. You want to share those?
Yes, actually, it's not me. Well, I'm gonna be. I wrote it down, so I won't,
Okay.
forget. On September 6th, I'm going to the Representative Rosamund Schultz Cancer Survivorship Day.
Wasserman
Cancer,
Schultz. Hmm.
yeah, she's having her Cancer Survivorship Summit. Sad
Okay.
to say, that's what actually took my grandmother. I mean, she survived once and then it came back, and then she says she's not going to do chemo, and that's all they wrote.
Okay.
Cancer also is a big issue in with females in general. It hits us hard. I just found out 11% of women under 45 years old
Wow.
are diagnosed with cancer.
Wow.
As female vets, if you have the opportunity to go to the veteran healthcare center, ask for those tests, do your pap smears, do your mammograms. I just did mine this past Friday because
Hmm.
it's that important. We need to be
Absolutely.
advocates for ourselves. So I can't do it. You have to ask for these things. So I'm believing in that. Also, as I mentioned with the military sexual trauma, I'm trying to raise awareness about the Blue Jeans Gala that's going to be happening in 2026.
Okay.
So we're doing that. Trying to do a female veteran of the quarter. So every quarter, I recognize a female veteran who's doing something. I highlight them. And one of the things that I would want to talk about is the MST, what it means to you. What do you know about it? Because I find that's the conversations we're not having. We're not having those hard conversations. Yes, we serve, but we owe it to our communities to serve again.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's it in a nutshell. And if you
Okay.
need someone to talk to, you can find me. I'm on social media, so you can find me there.
Absolutely. Makissa, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you so much for being a 2026 Shiro Coffee Club
Oh
ambassador.
yeah,
I
yeah, right.
cannot wait. And you know what? Andre's still in the mix. He's saying, wind it down. All right. So thank you so much. And we'll see you later. And as always, keep your heart strong and your coffee, Shiro. I will see you next week. Have a good one.